One.
Welcome everybody to the first episode of Firefighting Fridays, brought to you by Fire Engineering, Jeff Shupe, and Strategic Fire Training. Today, after our introductions, we're going to get into one of the subjects that seems to be catching fire around the country right now, and that's culture in the engine house. So we got several people on the board here, all members of the training group of Strategic Fire. But at the front, we have Jeff Shupe.
Hello. And you want to do the rest of the introductions, or you want me to run with it from here, sir?
Oh, go ahead, take a turn. I'll interrupt you when I need to.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, this is your first time seeing us together. I'm Jeff Shupe, and I'm a fop, I guess. But I'm still involved with the fire service after 46 years. And we're, like Jeff says, we're going to be doing this on a monthly installment basis, and it's all about firefighting. And we're going to take firefighting and break it down and so forth. And the people you see here right now are the people you're probably going to see regularly on our monthly programs. But we're also looking to get some people in there, to come in and be guest speakers or take part with us and so forth. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of good information, a lot of good stuff that you might want to take back to your departments and so forth. But in any event, it's all about firefighting. So I'm going to start in the upper left-hand corner of the screen and introduce Chad Gruver. For those of you who don't know Chad, he's with the Addison, Texas Fire Department. He's a 20-plus year veteran. He just recently got promoted to lieutenant. He has a great love affair with the job, like we all do. But he also has a couple of other things going for him. One in particular is that he's one of those people who's one of the cogs that makes Sons of the Flag go. And Sons of the Flag is a great organization that takes care of wounded or injured soldiers and firefighters. So he's quite busy with that, but Chad is one of our people and so forth. And he's another engine guy, loves squirting water and everything else and so forth. And believe me, if you haven't worked with him before, you will work with him if you're going to come to one of our classes in the future. And you'll enjoy hearing some of his stuff and some of the great things he's doing there, with the Sons of the Flag and so forth. And again, his department is Addison. They're in that Quad City area. And I can't remember, you got Carrollton out there, and you've got Farmers Branch, I think. And who's the third one? I can't.
Yes, sir. So it's Addison, Carrollton, Farmers Branch, and Coppell. And we're all suburbs of Dallas. And so you put them all together, it's a big city fire department. So
Yep. So yeah, everyone knows Texas is a hot spot for growth and development. So okay, so going over to the right side of my screen is my old pal, Mr. Jerry Knapp. Okay, and many people, if you've been in the fire service for a while, you've gone to FDIC, you've picked up a fire engineering magazine over the years and so forth, you've probably come across a Jerry Knapp article. Jerry's out of Rockland County, which is about 30 miles northwest of New York City. And Jerry's been involved with the fire service. He's another fop like me, way out there and so forth. And he's always doing something with the job, always doing something with the county fire operations up there and so forth. And he's very much involved in hazmat and so forth. He's got a book out with his buddy, Chris Flatley, Private Dwelling Fires. And it's published by Penwell, which is fire engineering. And I say, if you haven't picked up a copy yet, do yourself a favor and get a copy of it. Okay. It's great. It's all about firefighting and private dwellings and things like that. And again, he's put his heart and soul into it like he's done his whole career, and you will get something out of that, so forth. So he's working on a lot of stuff right now with natural gas emergencies. And that's something you might want to look forward to down the road and so forth. It's one of those things that it's been addressed over time, but not in depth. And I think Jerry's going a little bit more in depth with the problems encountered with natural gas emergencies when a fire department responds. I know I've been to a couple of natural gas emergencies. I was surprised that we were able to go back to the firehouse the way we looked at it and handled and things like that. And I think he's addressing some of those things in his procedures and manual. So anyways, Mike Hydeman. And Mike is one of those guys. He's our, dare I say, youngster of the group. And he just got hired by Kansas City, Kansas. And we actually come across Micah. When I say we, I mean like John Mateer and Jeff Diederich. And even Jerry's been out to Iowa with us where we used to do classes. And Micah and one of his friends would drive 4 or 5 hours from Manhattan, Kansas, all the way up to where we were in Iowa to take part in the training. So as you can tell from that, he's a guy with another love affair of the job and so forth, wanting to learn, wanting to do stuff and so forth. And it was kind of funny because, I could tell, like most people, you can tell a guy who's got a great attitude and wants to do the job. And one time we were out there this one summer, and I asked Micah, can you help me with this? I got a group of guys over here, and we had probably about 40 or 50 guys in this training. We had broke them down into groups. And I asked Micah if he could help me guide these guys along. Well, looking around, and I'm thinking, where's Micah? Well, he's doing the evolutions instead of letting the students do the evolutions. I thought, no. I know you know how to do them, but I want you to coach them now, so help me out and so forth. But that's, the kind of guy he is, loving to do the job and, stuff like that. So, but anyways, he just moved recently from Manhattan, Kansas to Kansas City, and he's looking forward to being a part of that great fire operation there too. So good luck, Micah, and we're sure you'll do fine. Across next to him is Jeff Warren, and Jeff comes from Oswego, and that's in Illinois. It's what about 40 miles west of Chicago, Jeff? You on?
Yes, sir. About 40, 50 miles.
Yeah.
Southwest of Chicago.
Okay. So it's kind of interesting the way I come across Jeff and his fire department. And, some of the people, myself, Jerry Knapp, who we used to teach quite a bit at the old FDIC years ago. Well, Jeff's chief, Mike Vessling, was an old pal, teammate, and so forth, the old Andy Fredericks group. And so one time up at Andy Fredericks' days up in Rockland County, his chief comes up and says, hey, Jeff, would you like to come out to the department and do some training? And I says, absolutely. So John went with me out there. We met up with another guy, and just had a great time with these guys. Jeff was one of those guys, you meet people, like I said before, and they stand out. And, so we did 3 days there, and I think we did burn in the afternoon of those days, right, Jeff?
Correct. Yes.
So, Jeff's running live burn and so forth. He's knocking himself out, because we've been doing 3 days, and here we are, burning all the afternoon and so forth. And I thought, this guy's got it. He's another one. Time goes on, we meet each other again. We go out there 3 times to his department and so forth. And, again, that's that talent that if we're going to do something and I need help, I need somebody, I want to expand the group. Jeff Warren, welcome to the group. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on with us. So, okay. Continuing on down the line horizontally is Jeff Diederich. And it's kind of interesting because for many years I taught at the local community college fire program. And Jeff was a student of mine back in '94. And, you put so many students through a year. I think we're doing like 6 classes a year. I think it was 5 or 6 weeks to a class. Students come and go. And so as they graduate, sometimes they'll give you a call, sometimes they won't, time goes on, what have you. So it was interesting the way Jeff and I reconnected. And this is how the fire service works and the networking and so forth. So Jeff, once again, another guy who loves the job, wants to learn as much and do things, goes and takes the Aaron Fields classes. And as Jeff is taking Aaron Field classes, he's hearing Aaron Fields talk about a mentor of his that Aaron got to meet back in 2002, I think it was, in California. And his mentor was Jeff Shupe. And so Jeff goes up to him and says, are we talking about the same Jeff Shupe? You know, you could have buried me there with that one if you wanted to.
I had you right there.
But anyways, yeah, he talked to Aaron. He says, yeah, I had Jeff as my instructor when I went through fire training school in 1994. So Jeff's now 25 plus years in the job. Am I correct? Well, April will be 25 years.
I just passed 26, but yeah. Who's counting?
Okay, very good. So I think it was what, 2014? We kind of reconnected.
Yeah, we put it together, and you helped me with that that Fire Nuggets article when we were first introducing the national conversation about the transitional attack.
Right. Yeah, the UL and NIST and all that other stuff about, you know, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of interesting, you know, and again, that's how everything comes together, you know, people you've had in your life before, and next thing you know, this guy knows this guy and so forth. So, yeah. So anyways, Jeff's a part of the team, and it was great to reconnect with him because not only is he a super guy to be with, you know, training and so forth, he's one of those guys who, you know, we do stuff with our families. And that's one of the things one of the core values of if you're going to work with people, you're going to travel with people, you're going to be out there away from your family, you know, core values of your family is setting and so forth. Yeah, that's huge stuff. So, all right. How's that?
Speaking of family, there's one more.
I know. And the guy at the bottom of the screen is a guy that him and I come together when I left an old firehouse that I was at for many, many years. And I went to firehouse on Broadway Avenue in Cleveland. And it was a kind of firehouse. It was interesting. You know, you had an engine and ladder there, a whole bunch of guys, and a lot of chemistry going on. A lot of guys leaving the house and things like that. And I went in there. John went in there, but John went in there because I turned down an earlier opportunity to go there. And so he got over to 11's house.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And what happened after that, it was just like, next thing we knew, another guy's transferring in who wants to come there, another guy's coming in, another, and so forth. And they reorganized the truck company that was there too. If you remember, John, you know, it was used to be Engine 11, Ladder 13, and then it brought in another ladder company, and that house developed into a great house. And the fire activity, you know, it's just, you know, it's there, it's great, and it just brought everybody together. And it's where a lot of nights John and I would sit up, you know, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I've told this story before, you know, just talking about things, not so much about the job, just about families, like I talked about before. Yeah, we talk about things like that. You know, the kids, his kids, he only had 2 boys at that time. Found out he was really fertile along with his wife and had a couple more kids after that. And, you know, we'd, you know, just talk about things like that. And then, of course, you know, things about the job and what have you. But it's that thing about wanting to be good. And that's the other thing, you know, since we had all these guys coming in who wanted to come in there, you had engine work, you had truck work, you had guys working together and so forth. And on the fire ground, it was just paying great dividends. Because when you hear the other company say, Jesus, we heard you guys call it a good working fire. And we get here and you guys got it all knocked down or whatever for the most part, you know. And I said, that's testimony as to the teamwork, you know, that we had put together and that a lot of companies do put together when you have the right people and so forth. So
I think that that plays well into the topic for tonight is culture.
Yeah.
And I think what you were getting at right there was just the culture of our team. And then talking about your culture with when John was working with you at 11. John, can you give us a little something that you noticed about the culture of Engine 11 that the senior guys like Jeff, that they kind of brought in, that you saw as a young fireman that kind of made the difference?
Yeah, it was a pretty young house at the time. Very diverse, very a lot of things going on there, and we were all wondering why the old guy was coming over there to 11. But he got there, and he had a reputation. Everyone kind of knew it. I had never met him, and so we all kind of started working together. And really, our shift, the whole house in general, but I'll speak about our shift. Yeah, Jeff really made it where we all really worked to be the best. That really was part of the whole thing. And we said it out loud that we are the best, that we want to be the best. Whether we were or not, it's irrelevant,
Right.
but that was our goal, was to be the best, to be the first in, to be the best. And I think that bled over onto all the shifts there, which was, it lasted a long time. I've been on there for about 6 months, so I can't really say right now, but it was like that for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I think that's a big statement, when the old guy wants to be there and he sets that kind of example and maybe holds you guys accountable to do as such. I mean, that is like the ultimate lever to move a group of people in a certain direction. When you have somebody with experience and the years on that can stand in front of them and honestly say, we're going to be the best, and we're going to work on it between all the other fires and runs that we go on. We're still going to work on it. Like Shupe has said, you're going to do it 1,001 today. You're going to do one more time,
And another thing, we weren't doing a lot of hiring at the time, so we didn't have a lot of young guys. We didn't have guys with just a couple of years on. I was the young guy. I had 5 or 6 years on, and I was the youngest guy, and I was with Jeff for the next 6 years. So it wasn't like he could reach down to a cadet, rookie, probie, whatever you want to call them. It wasn't like he could reach down to them and influence them. He had to influence people with 10, 15 years on, 20 years on, stuff like that. So I think it's a lot harder to reach those people than it is the young kids and get change out of them.
It is. It is. I think we talked about this before. I know I mentioned it that, I think it was when I was doing this thing with Jerry Herbst and Chris Martin, and we were talking about this move that I made. And I went in there and I was just kind of scoping people out. Like John says, I had a lot of years on. Everyone thought I was going to die in that other firehouse. I was going to stay there forever. But again, it changes. And I thought, no, it's time to go. And, and 11, there were a couple of guys there, older guys who I knew, and they said, come on over. Hell yeah, man. And I did. And it was the best thing I could have done. And again, George Redcross, John,
George, great guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He said, come on over, man. George and I worked together on Squad 1 back in the days. And, if he said, come on over, we're going. So that was it. But yeah, you just can't go in there and start barking orders as a senior man. You just can't start demanding changes from people. No, but the other thing is there's a lot of truth to that thing about lead by example. So, there were some things that we did that I thought were actually very good. And I think they're for any fire department. One of those things is roll call. You got that big kitchen there. We had 2 companies, so you'd have at least 16 guys coming and going a shift change. Well, you don't hold roll call in a kitchen. The best thing they did, I thought anyhow, was roll call out by the engine and the ladder. Line them up, engine guys against their engine, truck guys against their truck, and officers between the group. What's the information going off duty? What's the information coming on duty? And you can see everybody there and so forth. But once roll call was finished, everybody get on the apparatus. Make sure your turnout gear is ready to go. Make sure you check your SCBA out. And as a group or team, go over your apparatus. It only takes a few minutes to do it. And we would do that. And it worked very well. It just made sure everybody was in the right frame of mind, which I thought was a great thing that I picked up from a guy from another fire department years ago. He would talk about frame of mind. So simple things like that along the way. Yeah, Jeff.
If I can pop this over to Jerry. Jerry, you're working in some of the oldest, career fire departments, around. And with your association with West Point, do you have any things that you've noticed to help cultures as far as doing this kind of work with a workforce that, like John was saying, when you got to motivate that 5 to 10 year person, what are some of the things that we could take away from you? Like, hey, that worked.
I think Jeff's got it right. You can't come in and do the, kind of take over thing. It's got to be a little bit subtle. But by the same token, I think you have to make, especially for the older guys, you have to make the expectations clear, like in a positive way. We talk a lot about the millennials now, and these kids don't do this and they don't do that and they don't know this. And I think it's on us. Have we made the expectation clear? Hey, I expect you to check your SCBA in the morning, as a leader or as a senior guy. I expect you to go with me and we'll check out the first out hose load or the supply line or whatever it is. So making clear what we want the culture to be in a positive way. There's an expression, if your only tool's a hammer, everything's a nail. It's really good. So what's the expectation? How do we convey that? How do we convey it in a positive way? And it's like, hey, Jeff, good job today. And you reinforce that culture. So it's a circle.
Right. Is it anything different than that, Chad, down on your end of the world, down in South America there?
South America down in Texas?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Right. We were going to give our geographic locations in the world to the people tonight. We forgot to do that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, shoot. Go ahead and give them out.
Oh, no.
Coming.
It's out.
Well, from now on, you'll hear me referred to as the guy that's from South America. And I do know I talk funny, but we do not have a lot of different cultures like you were talking about. Our roll call, I think we have 12 at my station on a daily basis. We get out, we check out the engine the same, and kind of piggybacking, we check out the engine at the same time, kind of piggybacking off what Jerry said with the new people, the millennials. It's not, you have to set expectations, but you don't know what you don't know. So you have to show them and you have to verify that they know, and spend the time with them as they come into the fire service and make it a positive thing. Make it not punitive, just make it fun and find a way to make it fun to where you're doing it as a team. And
One
Jeff,
thing
I'll come back on the culture.
I really like about the millennials is two things. Their timetables are set on instant.
Yes.
So, and they're always going to ask you why. So you got to be able to provide the context to most any conversation. And to me, it makes sure you know what you're doing as a company officer or as a senior firefighter. So I think that's a level of accountability coming up from the workforce. And I think that's a good thing.
Yes,
Happy
sir.
to have them.
And the most important thing, if you do not know the answer, tell them you don't know, but tell them you'll find it. Never lie to them. Always be truthful. And you don't know what you don't know. If you haven't been asked that question and you don't know the answer, give them the right answer. And maybe I don't know right now, but I'll figure it out and I'll get back with you.
There's some organizations that are suffering from leadership culture just by the nature of the fact that there's nobody there with long-term experience, that they're in a part of the country that's been growing. They've got, maybe a 10-year guy at the top of the organization because they're literally growing that fast. Seems odd from our side of the world up here, in the Middle East, but Um, yeah, you caught that. But it's a real problem in areas of the country where, you know, they can't build the firehouses fast enough and they can't hire, you know, the personnel fast enough, and you don't have a culture of leadership. And typically it boils down to, well, who remembers the book best? That's who's on top. And at that point, there's some real struggles with culture then. Micah, have you seen anything like that in your respective areas where you've been working?
So, Jeff, that's a great question, because as I make this transition, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we got you.
Perfect. As I make this transition from a fire department in Manhattan, Kansas, a city of 60,000, to a new department of a population of 160 plus thousand. So I'm making that transition. I'm going to see a big culture difference from where I came from for 14 years to where I'm going. And I can't wait to revisit this same topic in 6 months from now. Going back in short, in a minute, where I came from, we're young. I was a company officer with 14 years on the job. So it highlights exactly what you're talking about. And we get gentlemen and women in the job at my old department who are looking for that firehouse culture. And it's hard to have that culture in a department of our size with the turnover that we have in promotion. So I'm looking forward to this transition, because the department I'm going to has a lot of rich history in culture and traditional fire skills. Not to say there's any difference in Manhattan. There's different culture shocks, and when kids are coming into the job today, they can't expect to have the culture that they see in environments of Cleveland or New York. The books they read and the things they see on TV, you have to adapt to the culture, and I think that's something that everyone has to learn.
One of the things that over the years I've heard Shupe tell the story, when he was down in the Carolinas working as a chief officer, and he was trying to explain to them, they were suffering from not having a fire culture, and just getting companies together on Thursdays for a chicken parm was something that, well, you think, well, what's that got to do with anything? But what it is, it's camaraderie, it's the brotherhood, and then it brings in an expectation of Thursday, we're going to get together and we're going to be able to share things face to face that normally maybe we couldn't. So if that's something that you can do in your department, is bring the groups together from different companies, if they can bring the groups together, make it a regular occurrence, and start your traditions. Don't wait for some magical, tradition to just come down. You have to decide what do we want to prioritize, and it has to be the people in the organization first. Bring them together, and make that a regular occurrence. It's not a union meeting, right? So it shouldn't evolve into that kind of discussion, and it's not something that's within the regular work hours. So you should be at home with each other and make it your department. Make that a tradition and start from there. Jeff, would you say that summarizes that experience when you were talking to the guys from North Myrtle Beach about Thursday nights at the firehouse?
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You had guys, again, young people who really wanted to get into traditions, but due to differences in philosophy at your leadership levels, no, they weren't going to have something like that happen. And I went down there, and I'm thinking, oh wow, let's see what we can do to, like you were saying, do team building. And when you're worried about, well, they'll be out of their district. Well, so what? If a call comes in, they'll be out of their district anyhow. So what does it matter? Bring the guys together, let them do this stuff. Let them start looking at things from a team perspective, because it does bleed over into the street. It bleeds over from training to the street to looking out for each other. And it's surprising to me when you get a fire chief who says, we don't want traditions. Oh no, I don't want these guys to be together like that. It's like, what are you doing? Is divide and conquer your own people? And that's a horrible thing to hear. But
That leadership crisis is out there. It's all over.
Oh, yeah,
you know.
it is. Yeah,
But,
sad thing.
But as a company level, you can only get by that if you make the decision that you're going to stick together, and
Yeah.
you're going to, rather than people come in with a negative attitude saying, this place makes me crazy, I don't like working here. It's not this place. It's the people you're working with is what you're really saying. And you need to address it in that regard. So
Mhm.
you need to make it better with the people you're working with.
You brought up something about a whole bunch of different leadership classes are out there. And I just wonder, because I don't go to the classes anymore. Me and an old friend, Scott Hiley, this is going back, oh my God, probably about 12, 10, 12, 15 years ago, we would teach leadership classes for the State Fire Academy here in Ohio. I'd teach leadership 1 and 2. He'd commit at the end of 2 and take it on to leadership 3. And it was standardized. And by that, I mean, it was the same National Fire Academy classes that are put out there that were presented by our State Fire Academy. And we did that on a regular basis. And with all the people teaching leadership and culture and so forth, what are they doing? What is the message? Is it the same from each of these guys' own programs that they put together? Or is it something like you do this, everything's all warm and fuzzy, touchy-feely and stuff like that? And I don't know. What's their message and things like that? So
I wouldn't know. Chad, you got something there?
I think Micah raised his hand first, so let's hit Micah real quick.
Perfect. I want to take this chance to ask a question of who implements the changes or the culture. Say you're a young department and you just were established in 2000. How do you start that culture that we're talking of? If the officer is young, the company officer, and or they get the senior man in or senior woman, however you want to say it, who is the one that will be kind of encouraging and coaching this culture?
Let's go by seniority. Jerry, go ahead.
Obviously it's a leadership responsibility, but my thought here was, and everybody's kind of alluded to it, is you got to set a goal first. You got to set a common goal, and the common goal was chicken parm with Jeff. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's something everybody can agree on. And like we talked about before, you build on that. So a common goal, we want to be the best engine company. So once everybody starts pulling that same direction, you set the goal clear is kind of the first step. If guys are looking for, how do I do this? Set a common goal. And it may be chicken parm to start with, but it may be picking the best nozzle, the next week.
I like it. John?
Yeah, I don't think leadership and culture are at all necessarily related. I think as far as the culture goes, I think anyone can start. I think everyone has a role in it. Whether it's getting families together off time, getting the guys together and going to a ball game, whatever, picking up and going out of town to do something. I think all of that leads into your culture. And that one event isn't going to do it, but it's all the events that come after that it builds on. I think that's really that's where you go. And I think a guy with a year on can have as much impact in a firehouse. He's the guy who spearheads it. He can have as much influence as a guy with 10 or 20 years on. So I think it's everyone's responsibility if it's something they want. Not everyone's in the business, in the job for the same reason. We
All
are.
right.
We all are.
Chad, can you chime in on that?
Yeah, what I was going to say was, you get, my department's relatively new. We're 50 years old this year. So, they had a good culture of a bunch of older firemen when I got there that taught me everything I know. And then now, I hate to say it, I've turned into one of the oldest. And I don't like saying that, but it's the truth. So it can seem like a whole lot. And I've heard this, I have taken some leadership classes, and there's a word out there called a microculture. So if I'm a 2 or 3 year guy, how can I affect the whole station or department? Break it down, simplify it. We always say, keep firefighting as simple as you can. Don't try to affect everything. Make the change, have a good attitude, get your engine crew to have the same attitude. Get the team, build a team on the engine. Our engine's going to be the most elite in the town. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that by doing this, this, and this. We're going to pull hose every day, flow water every day. Focus on a common goal and work on that engine. The other apparatus, they'll come along, they'll see that y'all are doing good, and then that's where that competition comes in. Because in my mind, culture is like, it's what we do. It's our default aggressive attitude. And I want that engine company to ooze that. All the guys on it, they know what they're going to do. They know their job. They know they're going to do it, and they're confident in it. And that helps take some of the, insecurity of being new out, is by training it into them.
Good stuff. Shupe, you want to cap that off?
No, but I want to, go back and clarify what John said earlier about a guy with 1 year can have an impact on a company more so than a guy with 10 or 15 years. And that is true, but I want to clarify that a little bit more, John. The guy with 10 or 15 years that has a 1 or 2 year firefighter what I'm looking for, upstaging him. Well, that guy with 10 or 15 years must be a real slug then,
No, and I don't mean by upstaging. I just mean making a change in the firehouse in a positive way, and obviously not, like a bull in a china shop, but being part of the group, encouraging the group to be together. It's a lot of things that go into culture, whether it's the clothes we wear, the t-shirts we wear, how we hang out. There's a ton of different things that go into culture. And my point is, so Jeff was saying that some of these young departments have no culture. They're building firehouses so fast, they have no culture.
Right.
And that's kind of where I was going with that. You want to have culture? It starts with each one of us in bringing something to the table, whatever that might be, and however little it might be, or however big it might be. But I think everyone can play a role in it, is kind of where I was going with that.
Well, everyone can play a role, and I agree with that, and should, and that takes us to something else that we could really throw in here tonight, and that would be mentoring, because again, I don't expect the young guy to bring that much to, he's just out of the academy for that first year and for the first several years on the job. And that's where, but you do expect, and again, a firehouse culture or a firehouse way of doing business is that you take that kid, that cadet, that 1 or 2 year guy, and say, you're the youngest kid in the house. This is going to be your duties, as the youngest kid. And we expect this from you, this from you, this from you. And, it's like what we've heard before about you're bringing somebody into the system. You're building the system with all these newer people who come into the job. And John, you've seen it. People go to a good firehouse, and on that rotation, they're there for a year, year and a half. They're shipped out to another firehouse for another year because of that rotation. They're going to make them fully well-rounded. Well, the kid goes to another firehouse and says, man, we don't do any training over at that firehouse. Guys just come in, and do their flop, and that's it. And that's sending the wrong message. And then conversely, a kid goes to that flop firehouse and ends up in his second or third year in a place that's got their act together, and it's culture shock to him. He's like, holy cow, man, these guys are expecting me to do stuff here or carry my own weight or whatever, So it's a tough thing to keep that culture alive and protect it. That's one of the things you got to do, because if you don't protect your culture or your traditions, you'll lose them. Simple as that.
Mr. Knapp.
Huh?
Mr. Knapp, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I think Jeff is right. I mean, it's up to the older guys to get the younger guys set and give them their duties. By the same token, there's a balance here. You get that new guy and he can't come in and say, hey, this is the way we're going to do it. but he can come in and say, "Hey, Lou, how about we try to be the best whatever? Hey, Lou, how about," so he does it more in an asking way than a telling way, because it's not he doesn't have the authority to do that. But that spark from the younger guys, I think we need to listen to. I know I do that with my hazmat guys. I'll ask the youngest guy, the newest guy on the team, what do you think? And sometimes I really don't care what he thinks, but I'm making him, he's feeling the love, So, and that same guy will come up with a great idea, the next day. So, there's a balance. There's a balance.
Yeah, I would say the part of the balance is when I have come across a younger firefighter and they've asked me any kind of advice to either fit in or how to make sure that they don't step on the wrong toes. And I make it real easy. I said, listen, just when you want to know something specific about something here in the firehouse, go to somebody that's been on shift for a long time and ask them, can you do me a favor and explain this to me? And then when you word it that way, they're not going to say no, right? And the other is that on some level, that senior firefighter now knows that you kind of owe him a little bit, because he's going to give you his take on that piece of equipment or that procedure or that side of town or his experience using something like that. And, I think that senior firefighter is probably going to expect you to remember that as a young person. And I think it'll start that relationship. If you come in, as John was saying, positive attitude, if you come in, like Shupe was saying, humble enough to take your duties and take them seriously, and you come to a senior man and you're asking a genuine, will you do me a favor and explain this to me? I think it really starts things off in the right direction, because accountability it's personal. It's not personnel. And we got to know each other on a personal level so that we can really be aware of each other and what we're doing at the firehouse and what we're doing on the fire ground. That's a culture. That's how we're accountable. It's personal. Chad, what do you got?
Actually, Jeff, I wanted to ask Micah a question, because he is the best person I can think out of our group right now to answer this. You're a 15-year rookie. How do you plan on doing this?
That's why I would love to revisit this in 6 months. Everything that we just mentioned tonight will play a role with my implementation to this new department. With the years and experience I have in Manhattan, it served me well in Manhattan. It doesn't carry much weight here in this new department. I need to learn their culture, their language, the people that they serve and protect. It's going to be a little different than the Kansas State University college kids. I'll be working with people who have different walks of life. So I need to learn as much as I can from the guys who have 3 years on the job, to the guys who have 20 years on the job, to that new officer, to that senior man. And I'm going to keep my head low. I'm going to have my ears open and my eyes open, and just be respectful, not to sound like I'm polishing something up, but I'm learning. As much as I'm 14, 15 years on the job, I'm a rookie again at a new department.
And I think down here in Texas, we do have a lot of firefighters that jump. And that's why I wanted to ask that question. They switch departments about every 5-6 years because of growth and money opportunities. And, that's why I wanted to get Micah's take on it, because I've talked to him quite a bit, and he has what I think is probably the best attitude about going in as a rookie, even though he's in his 30s or 40s or whatever it is.
Yeah, they learned my age today.
21, right?
Yeah, that's right. 21.
Right. Well, I think we got some good points here. As far as culture goes, we pointed out that you have to make a commitment to start it. If your department doesn't have it, and it needs to be a common goal, it can be something as easy as some type of traditional every Thursday doing something, or some type of roll call in the morning. It could be something where you get your group together outside of the firehouse, which introduces a lot of not only good times, but it shows commitment to each other, that you're not just there for every third day. I think we've covered quite a bit of the waterfront of getting culture started. Does any of you guys want to cap this? Because I want to keep us close to the time limit we were talking about. So, Jeff,
Wow.
do you want to have at it here for the last few?
I tell you what, I could go on and on and on because, you know, a lot of you guys have heard my early beginnings in the job, you know, and crews that I worked with and officers I had. And it was just, again, everything was just so tightly organized. Like when I worked on the God Squad, right, you know, as a young kid, you know, the God Squad, the captain was nicknamed God. You know, imagine this, you know, massive fire department, and everyone knows this guy as God. You know, you can pick up the phone in the watch desk. You know, come on, too, Shupe. Hey, Shupe, is God there? And you knew who they were calling for. You know, and he had handpicked crews, and that was one of the things about the old days and the old bosses. And that's when you had a strong captain who would get his people, his friends, people who he knew made his company a good or great company, and they ran the company. Again, I've mentioned this before, where I remember in the kitchen one day, the captain saying, if you have a problem, you go to my senior men. They will take care of that problem for me. If they can't take care of that problem for me, and it gets to me, son, you've got a big problem. You know, and that was just words of wisdom there. And of course, that's the way the job used to be, a very disciplined, so forth. And that carried over into the streets. So when you went to a fire, and the captain would say, or the boss would say, or you might have a lieutenant, you know, that night, and they would say, you go with so-and-so. That's what you did. You stuck to that senior fireman's ass like flies on shit. And it was just that simple. And when that guy says, come on, we're going up here, we're going to go, you know, and do this, it was without question, you know, because the captain or the lieutenant knew what that senior firefighter can do. And that's why he put you as a rookie cadet, candidate, whatever, with him, because he knew where you were going to be. This goes into something else, accountability. All this stuff about, you know, accountability and who's where and what they're doing and so forth like this. I mentioned this before about cultures, traditions, ways of doing business. The old chiefs had accountability figured out a long time ago, before any of this, you know, other stuff that's come out recently to confuse you on the job or the fire scene. Okay. For example, you know, I remember some old chiefs, they were inside, outside, around. They knew who was at that fire. They knew where you were in that fire building. If there was a withdrawal, like fire's really taking off, okay, we're going to back guys out, whatever. They were doing head counts right there, whether it's day or night or whatever, you know. And it was like that fire was that chief's. That fire belonged to him. You were his firefighters. And this is the thing about that chief running that fire in his manner, and the best manner that he was going to do that, you know. And it was just different. And again, I'll say it because I've said it before. Not everybody was good at what they were doing, you know, from those particular ranks. But you know, the good chiefs.
They took it personal, right?
Well, absolutely, they did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
I think if we all take it personal, I think that brings the whole the level up, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Different times, you know, and again, you know, if you're an older guy and you had that privilege to work in an urban setting like that and see some of those old people who had come from departments that have been around for a long time, you saw how it was and how it worked. And to see some of these things now that are happening, it's like, my gosh, I would just wonder what the future holds. So hopefully in programs like this, we can get the word out there, we can help people and so forth. We can learn from people and whatever the case may be, you know, maybe, you know,
Yeah,
down the road.
we can make it happen for
Yeah.
sure. Well, looks like Chief Warren is back. Welcome back, pal.
Oh, just in time.
Leave it to a chief to show up at the end.
Yeah.
What you got, Chad?
Jeff, I was going to bring up, if anybody has any questions from this, please message Strategic Fire Training at Facebook, and maybe we can hit the questions on the next show.
Oh yeah, that'd be great if we can get a little dialect going and we can bounce off any one of those from any one of us. That would be great. All right, well, let's wrap it up. I think that was a great first time out for Firefighting Friday, and we covered culture in the job, and somehow we managed to keep Shupe only down to an hour.
Just a little bit, though. We always
We just
did a
scratched
little
it,
bit of
folks.
that.
Yeah. So if you'd like to hear the next couple hours, just email Jeff and call him, and he'll give it to you straight. So
We'll have to talk about cleaning a trash can at 4 o'clock. Okay.
yeah. Right. Coffee, newspapers, and trash cans. Yeah. No, they're not newspapers anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. That's why they had to stop doing it, right?
That's right.
Oh, funny.
All right, fellas. Well, let's sign off with that. Thank you again, Fire Engineering, for the venue here, and everybody stay safe and stay aggressive.
Yeah,
Take
absolutely.
care, guys.
Take care.
Y'all be
All right.
careful.
Have a good night.
Go Chiefs.
Peace.